Continue in Paris now and speak with Enes Bayrakli, and he is the Director of European Studies at the think tank SETA. Thanks for joining us, Enes. Now, these protests started here in Paris, and they were about fuel. But what do you really think is at the core of these protests?
I think these protests are a symptom of a much deeper crisis in Europe. Not only in France, but we can see that the same issues are present in other European countries. And these are I think there are three main crises that Europe is facing today. First is an identity crisis, the second is an economic crisis, and the third is a political crisis. And the economic crisis, as you know, that started 2008, and in 2012 there was a crisis in the Eurozone. But there is a much also deeper crisis in the economy, which is the industrialization, especially in France, and France cannot create enough jobs, etc. So this is one aspect. The other aspect is an identity crisis. Europe is becoming more and more receiving more and more migrants and refugees, and the population is changing. And then there are fears in the societies about this change, and the politicians are unable to manage these fears. And this is led us to another crisis, which is the political crisis, that the center parties are losing power, and two radical and extremist parties on the right and left, they are gaining power. And so this is the three crises that Europe is facing today, and the politicians are unfortunately unable. And Macron was the last hope really for France. You know that because of the fear from the Le Pen, he won the elections. Actually, he didn't have any previous experience in politics, and suddenly he established a party, and because people trusted him.
Let's talk about Macron a bit more.
I think he lost the trust of the people.
He's lost the trust of the people, you think?
I think he lost the trust of the people, and then his behavior is perceived as very arrogant, and I think he became the center of the hate today in white among the overwhelming majority of the French population.
Indeed, and there are calls for him to step down. And there are calls for him to step down.
Yes, and so it's not ever.
Do you think that could be a possibility?
I don't think, because he likes to be seen as a strong leader that don't back down and etc. But he already did. Took the decision back of the fuel about the fuel prices. But he might survive this. But I don't think he will win another election in France. And there is a high possibility now that the far right might win the next elections in France, and that will be a really, really negative development in France.
And do you think we will see a fifth week of protests like this taking place right in the heart of Paris? The situation, as our correspondent has been saying, looks to be more contained than in previous weeks.
I think there is. I'm already in Paris, and there is a heavy police presence in Paris and all around the country. Almost 90,000 police have been deployed, but the clashes already started when I was on the way here, and I witnessed some of them. And police already started arresting people, but people expect that the things might get out of control in the night, especially during the night, that there might be more clashes. And I think that it will continue these protests in the next weeks or so, because also the protesters, they feel that they are not addressed enough from the president, because president, he rejected to meet the protesters. Instead, he let one of his ministers to meet them. And this makes people more angry, I think, in France.
Yeah. Enes, thank you very much for your analysis there. That was Enes Bayrakli. He's the Director of European Studies at the think tank SETA.